Excuses, excuses. Vice President Kamala Harris dishing up plenty of blame and reasons on why she hasn't visited the southern border. 33 days since President Biden appointed her as the crisis point person.
Are you going to go there?
In that regard, it is, yes, we're working on the plan to get there. We have to deal with COVID issues, but I can't get there soon enough in terms of personally getting there. It's not going to be solved overnight. It's a complex issue. Listen, if this were easy, it would have been handled years ago. We're making progress, but it's not going to evidence itself overnight. It will not, but it will be worth it.
But the American people know exactly who's to blame. Voters in a new Fox poll say border security is worse today than it was 2 years ago. And guess what's actually making an appearance at the border? Copies of the VP's 2019 children's book handed out to kids at a shelter along the southern border in California. Harris's office saying they weren't aware of these welcome packs and that they're usually organized by members of the community. Wow, Dana, imagine if Trump gave Art of the Deal to kids in cages. I just cannot, I can't even see what they would say about that. I don't know. It's kind of silly when you think about it. Right. What do you think's going on here?
I am really just surprised at all of this. I'll tell you why. So if you recall, Vice President Harris was given this made the point person on the border the day after she laughed at a question when she was asked about going to the border. So it seems to me that they overcorrected on a PR issue that they could have handled, and now they have a much bigger PR issue because she clearly doesn't want to really deal with it. And when they say that superheroes are everywhere, but they're not at the border apparently, because this issue, to me, a vice president would want to take on a big issue like this. And also, the administration is taking on so much water and negativity when it comes to the border issue, as you saw in that poll and in all the other polls. And it's just obvious on its face. And I'm starting to feel like, she had this moment in these first 100 days. And it was different and it was new. And when you see on Wednesday night, when she's sitting there with Nancy Pelosi and Biden is giving the speech, that will be historic. That is a moment. But then what are you doing with that moment? Where are you stepping up? And I feel like I just really feel like that has been lacking.
Well, Dagan, she says she can't get down to the Northern Triangle because of COVID. She's been vaccinated. I'm sure the presidents of those countries have been vaccinated, but that's now just a convenient excuse.
Right, and what message does that send to the border personnel and the volunteers at the border? And, well, quite frankly, people working in hospitals for more than the last year and grocery store workers who put their lives on the line. This is a lose-lose for Vice President Harris in two ways, because she's clearly being fed this, oh, blame COVID, don't go to the border yet. And then these books magically show up in welcome gift bags for children. So that makes her, she looks like she's not in charge. So she's weak. Or, on the other hand, she just doesn't want to be photographed with a bunch of suffering children, and that makes her look uncaring. So she can't get out of this. But they're craving, the Biden administration, they're craving poll watchers. If these numbers keep declining, they will make a change and fast. Remember what they did last summer? They didn't say bupkis about the riots that were raging in cities across the country, and they only spoke out about it after the poll numbers started moving against them.
That is true. Juan, I have to give credit where credit is due. Biden saw this coming, and he said, here, Kamala, you take it. And now we're doing a segment on Kamala Harris, 1600, chewing gum or doing whatever he's doing.
Well, no, I think that what we saw in the poll numbers indicated that immigration's a real problem for the Biden administration. He's the president, Jesse, and he's getting hit on that subject. I mean, he's got to come up with some ideas. Now, I don't buy into this idea that it's simply making a photo op at the border is the key to the solution. I mean, gosh, if that's the case, then Senator Cruz, Senator Langsford, I think Congressman McCarthy, they've all been down to the border. We don't have any solution as a result of their magical photo op, taking selfies. I think they were trying to exploit the issue for political advantage. So I think that the reality is that, when you look at the steps that they are taking, that Kamala Harris and President Biden are taking, I think they're real steps. They're trying to improve border security. And you've seen the arrests, the apprehensions up markedly. You've seen an improvement in terms of the asylum process with more judges put in place so that it can be more speedy. You see increased cooperation now coming from Mexico, and I think that's a breakthrough. You also see them trying to establish processing places for people who want asylum, refugees who are seeking asylum in their home countries or outside the United States. But I think the big thing is giving aid to some of these countries and saying people don't want to leave home. They'd rather stay, but they're suffering from, violence, economic devastation, tornadoes and the like. Let's look at this realistically, and I think you take gradual steps.
Yeah, well, realistically, we've been giving aid for years, and that hasn't always worked. Greg, I would have given the plus to these kids coming across. That'll get them started here in this country.
Absolutely. They would learn so much more. By the way, I do agree with Juan. Apprehension is up on the border. And Mexico was already cooperating with America, so it wasn't a breakthrough. Trump had already had that covered. We also learned how to do those photo ops from AOC, who was down at the border crying her eyes out, if you remember that. I just think this whole thing was a desperate ploy to get free publicity for a new book. She couldn't do a book signing at Borders, so she went to the border. That's a joke about a bookstore that no longer exists. So for you young people, it used to be that. But here's the interesting story, and I didn't see this coming, but she is revealing herself to be not very good at this, not very good at this job in general. And this could be why she failed miserably in the primary, because she was the media's pick, not the people's pick. I picked her. I thought that she was actually going to be the nominee, and then I was sure that she was going to be the VP, but I'm in the media. That was the choice. What I thought I saw was that, this person might be charming and interesting and ticks all the boxes, but she's actually like I thought that she could be the backup QB, but she's like the third string punter. And when she shows up at these things, you feel like she's in over her head, and it's compounded by the kind of the laughter and the nervousness. She reminds me of a coworker that is not up for the job, and when you're in a meeting, it's just like every time she talks or he talks, it's just a cringe moment. And the dog not barking, obviously, is the media that just like knows it too. They thought that this was going to be the next president.
Well, I think everybody on your staff knows exactly who that employee is that you're talking about at the meeting.